And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, I'm Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. Now, as the title suggests, this is a collection of those games, continuing in the same vein as Vicarious Vision's 2020 game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. It's a collection, or a sort of remake of classic Tony Hawk, with the best, fresh, modern version of the gameplay. You know, think fine-tuned, addictive, satisfying, arcadey style skateboarding. So if you played 1 and 2, you kind of know what to expect here. Look, long story short, this game is, once again, a ton of fun. It takes advantage of some of, in my opinion, the best maps in the whole series to great effect. So if you're a more casual, nostalgic Tony Hawk fan, you'll probably have a blast. If you're a more hardcore, more discerning fan, well, there's a couple of things that might bother you. Overall, I think Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 is still fun. It's a great offering, you know, but it's just not quite the near perfect slam dunk the previous collection was. Let's get into it. And just so you know, I've been playing since I bought into the deluxe edition thing, and this gameplay is captured running on a PS5 Pro. Also, full disclosure, Tony Hawk is one of my favorite video game franchises, and I've been playing since the first, just so you kind of know my bias or tendencies here. But first things first, gameplay-wise, it still plays like a dream. In the footage, look, I'm clearly still warming up a little bit, but it feels great to jump back in. If you've been playing consistently with Thug Pro on PC, or, you know, maybe it's been years since you dropped into even something like Project 8 or American Wasteland, either way, you'll be able to jump right back in thanks to just tight, smooth, responsive gameplay. It's got all the mechanics that make perfect sense for the flow, everything, really. I'm glad none of this was really messed with. For the most part, from what I can tell, it's completely preserved. You're comboing across levels, spine transferring, connecting lines, all of it feels great. A couple of little connections felt off here and there, but for the most part, I just love how everything is presented here. Most of the levels are absolutely awesome. Tony Hawk 3 and 4, in my opinion, had some of the best levels in like the whole franchise, and I think that's kind of why this 3 and 4 exists. You know, the suburb level, Canada, Alcatraz, San Francisco, Japan, the airport, man, all of them here are really lovingly represented with some fun little twists. Like the college town from 4 is way brighter and more lively, with parade confetti, more flags, just more zest to it. The airport levels feel brighter and more real. Brazil has tons more detail and just looks cool as hell. Look, they took creative liberties with all these levels, sure, like color palette and lighting changes and stuff like that. But for the most part, it all really works, and it feels like they topped what was done in 1 and 2. Like when you first experience the Foundry here with the smoke, the sparks, all the little bursting effects, all these crazy things going on all over the place, it's really impressive in motion. Unfortunately, it's not perfect. Some people are having issues with the zoo level and, you know, how that feels a little bit neutered. But for me, the bummer was Kona. A level from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 that, for me, was like this giant playground for all sorts of good skate chaos. Now it's just kind of reduced to a competition medal level, which is a bummer. But it also leads to the biggest point of contention with this game. We should dive into this. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 is not represented here in full form. So if you're looking for a one-to-one remake, you're not really getting it. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 was the first open game where you could skate around larger levels and get goal objectives by talking to NPCs. Honestly, as someone who replays 4 here and there, you know, it's a lot of nostalgia. A lot of that stuff didn't feel that great, but like it had corny dialogue and just kind of slowed things down, but still, it was part of that game, and now it's absent. To keep in line with Tony Hawk 1, 2, and 3, they essentially boiled down Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 into a similar timed 2-minute career mode. Look, you can call it lazy, you can call it a compromise, you can call it cutting corners, whatever you want to call it. It results in the Tony Hawk 4 element feeling less than, for me personally. It still plays fine, and a lot of goals actually reflect a lot of the wackier old stuff you did in the original, but in terms of a true representation of 4, like a preservation or a celebration, this falls a little short. Some fans are militarily against this. Look, I bought the game, I'm still having fun. I just wish 4 really got the full love. It's like almost there. And I say almost because after playing, you can unlock pro goals, which are essentially 5 new, trickier challenges for each level. Some of these are more callbacks to old missions from the original, as well as, most importantly, things like collecting the combo letters. One of my favorite things from these games. So I'm glad there's that. There's more to it, and it's an okay compromise. But I also didn't think there really needed to be a reason to come to the point of a compromise in the first place. But hey, that's just me. As much as I love tons of games, and I'm very forgiving, with certain game franchises, I can be a nitpicky, nostalgic fan, and that's where I land here. Because it leads to some personality being stripped from the game, ultimately. Now, Tony Hawk 1 and 2 felt like it had a little bit of this issue, but because original 3 and 4 had more personality, it feels like a lot of that is kind of pulled back here, pared back, stripped away, less edgier goals, less dialogue overall. The peeing guy in the Canada map is not here. Again, this is an old school fan pointing small things out, but I think older fans would just appreciate knowing. Multiplayer is good from what I've experienced so far in the opening 2 days. I love that it kind of takes the if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach from 1 and 2. A lot of stuff is carrying over from the previous game. It's simple. You hop in, matches and modes start. That's it. I had no issues with matchmaking, and I'm especially glad it's cross-platform now, meaning I'm playing with players on other platforms, hopefully extending the life of online activity overall since it's a shared pool of players. I'm hopeful. Character creation is still simple, feels even more simple this time around, kind of disappointing with less exciting options. You're earning cash and you're buying more accessories and stuff from a store like decks, hats, shoes, clothing. But other than the decks, nothing is really that exciting or worthwhile. Overall, the progression feels similar to 1 and 2, but just not as satisfying. What I did like this time around was a secret shop. So here you unlock special characters, most importantly, Bam Margera, who I'm really glad was included here, and some cool little effects like screen filters or sparks or smoke that comes from your grinds. Look, man, it's not the most over-the-top and exciting stuff, but it's all just interesting enough to keep me hunting through the levels for collectibles and stuff. There's also a speedrun mode here, which is just great to have. Think if you mastered a classic 2-minute level like the Foundry, you could see how quickly you can get through all the objectives now with a timer that goes up instead of counting down. Now, that personality thing I mentioned, something that's a little bit more subjective here is the music. 1 and 2 had good portions of the OG tracks with a helping of new songs that kind of helped fill it out that were tastefully chosen and really nicely complemented the older stuff. That's the same approach here, but there's significantly more missing original tracks. This leads to a lot more unfamiliar and new songs, which kind of changes the vibe, for lack of a better phrase. It's hard to explain. Once again, I think they've at least thoughtfully chosen some great songs that really complement Tony Hawk and expose people to new music, but there's some tracks that I really missed more this time around. And speaking of missing, Carnival and Chicago are not here, but there's a bit more technicality to that, especially for older fans. Look, the developers here, Iron Galaxy, did at least try their hand at 3 new levels, and I am happy to report here, I absolutely love these new levels. I think they completely nailed them. They have a good amount of creativity and flair, really excellent lines for skating long-ass combos, and I was just genuinely happy to experience something new in this regard. It really got me thinking, why don't we try again with new Tony Hawk? Why are we remaking the old ones where we could have a Tony Hawk 5, and I say that because the original 5 didn't happen. Why can't we get to that point? Regardless, I think they've proven they're up to the task here. These levels feel heavily inspired from the original 4 games, but distinct in their own way, and legitimately pushing the fun factor forward a little more. I really appreciate them. And where new and old tracks can kind of be dependent on your taste or whatever, I think the roster is good because it has some nice secret characters and added characters and stuff like that, but just a ton of new skaters, modern skaters from skate culture. I only know a handful of them because I can only keep up so much, but just seeing this big of a roster in a Tony Hawk game is very cool. I like that a lot. Ultimately, like 1 and 2, some little things are missing here and there, but this time around, it is a bit more in spots, especially noticeable to some fans that tend to look a little deeper. Despite that, I think this is still a top-notch skating package. I ultimately, I feel like 1, 2, 3, and 4 could have just been one game. They're definitely double dipping us here, but I am happy to be playing more Tony Hawk. Issues and compromises aside, I think most people are gonna have a ton of fun with this. I certainly have been, and complaints aside, I need to go get back to playing this, so if you'll excuse me, that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. I'd love to know your experience with the franchise. Which was your first game? A lot of people say Underground, a lot of people say American Wasteland. That makes me feel so old, but regardless, I'd love to hear your first Tony Hawk game. Chances are you probably have strong opinions about no campaign mode being here from Tony Hawk's 4, so let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you do like, what you don't like, anything at all, hit us up down in the comments. Of course, if you want to find me directly, you can yell at me on social media at Jake Baldino. But if you like this video, seeing the gameplay, anything like that helped inform your purchase, clicking the like button does help us out. We really appreciate that. And if you're new, consider subscribing, man, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
What you got?